Holodeck 3 program is reinstated.
Open sesame!
Commander Klingon vessel. We are energizing transporter beam. Now.
One, engage!
All right, hello, welcome everyone to Star Trek from the Holodeck. This is the Discovery Edition, and I'm your host, Michael Flores. If you're new to our show, we cover a wide variety of Star Trek content, and we welcome you. And you can find our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search From the Holodeck. Make sure you give us a rating and a review on iTunes, as it does help trigger algorithms that will then allow other people to find our show that much easier. So we do need that assistance. All right, so in the studio today with me is Ensign David Sabal. Hello, Ensign.
How's it going, everybody?
And
good to be back.
It does feel good to be back. I wasn't quite sure if I was going to be ready or not for Discovery just because, you know, towards the end of the year, we get very busy with lots of other shows and things that we break down. And I was thinking that it might end up sapping my excitement for the show. And as I pushed play, when the episode dropped, I was very excited, and I immediately was pushed into my Star Trek fan zone. No matter how tired and worn out I may have been, it didn't matter because I was excited with the new season of Discovery that we were about to embark through.
Yeah, I was really surprised with the fact that in this episode we actually got moments that took a while for Discovery to get to, you know, those Star Trek moments. And I was really surprised that they immediately just right out of the gate, okay, we're going to make you feel like you're watching a Star Trek show finally.
Yeah, I don't want to say finally because they did have their moments, Dave. Like, it was definitely...
Oh, yeah, no. But I mean, like, in the past seasons of Discovery, the one thing that, I mean, we all have pretty much grown to know about Discovery is they want to be a different type of Star Trek show.
Yeah, and they should be.
Yeah. And like this is for me, especially when you take into contrast with the last season's premiere with season 3, totally different vibe. I truly felt like this is probably the most Star Trek start to a season that I've seen for Discovery.
Yeah, Dave. You know, I'm going to go ahead and jump into that side of the pool with you. I'm going to break critical professionalism right off the bat and just say from the beginning, this episode did feel right. I'm not quite sure why. I'd have to watch it again, but I'm not quite sure what I mean by that. Hopefully by the end of this discussion, we will have sorted through all the tidbits that make this episode feel right, and then we can hopefully derive some meaning from that.
Well, the funny part is like I'm pretty much with you there. Is kind of like at first because this took me about, I'd say, I think I was on viewing 4, and because like after the first viewing, I was like, oh, okay, that was a good episode, and
right?
Something just was like, I'm like going, something just feels weird, and then by the third viewing, I'm like going, I think it's because when I compare it to how Discovery always starts off, this is different. Like I don't know if it's because the new showrunner, I forgot her name actually, that's doing
Michelle Paradise.
Michelle Paradise is coming in, and we all know that Michelle Paradise has constantly touted that she understands Star Trek and how Star Trek should feel.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think it has a lot to do with the way they want to start every season off, all the way going back to the first season. They want to give it this, you know, for example, with the first season, it was just this epic beginning to a new series. We had a giant war between the Klingons and the Federation. Giorgio was killed by the end of the 2-part premiere. Burnham was sent off to prison. It felt very different from anything we've seen before. And then after each, or I should say, and then with every subsequent season premiere, it felt like they were coming off the heels of a very big season finale, and they were trying to create a type of continuity between the season finale and premiere, and it just felt like they were once again being thrown into the crew of our Discovery, into this epic scenario. And this episode allowed things to be a little smaller. We did have our big moments, but giving us those more intimate moments, it allowed the show to focus on what's most important, and that's our character as opposed to just simply action. Now, the episode did have a lot of action.
Yes.
I'm not going to say it didn't, and we'll go through everything. So let's start with the synopsis. After months spent reconnecting the Federation with distant worlds, Captain Burnham and the crew of the USS Discovery are sent to assist a damaged space station, a seemingly routine mission that reveals the existence of a terrifying new threat. Okay, let's continue with our discussion on that opening teaser. It was a very strong opener, period. Yeah. The initial 10 minutes gave us a version of Burnham we have not quite seen before, someone confident in her abilities while also slightly tempered, aware that she's in charge. This is a diplomatic mission. I like the way the writers set up the first contact with the Al Shane, using the concept of, I guess you can say the concept of socio-miscommunication, which is a big issue in relations with other governments. And I'm talking, of course, in a reality sense. That's already something that is a difficult process because every culture has different ways of saying things, different mannerisms mean different things.
Yes.
Body language, all those things. That's where that saying came from, culture shock, when someone's thrown into another culture and nothing they do resonates or makes sense because it's a completely different culture. Everything is represented differently.
Yeah.
And that's why I liked what they did here with this moment, because we've seen these types of things before implanted or embedded within Star Trek narratives. So using the concept of socio-miscommunication in a diplomatic context, it helps with reminding us that the Federation was built on a foundation of a type of multiculturalism. And when you are a part of a multicultural society, there are communication problems, or can be communication problems. For instance, you have the implicit versus the explicit, and the misunderstandings that originates from differing mental models. Our brains delete, misconstrue, and misinterpret according to filters, biases, triggers, assumptions, beliefs, habits, mental models. And this is a bit of a, epistemology. There we go. This is a little bit of a epistemology debate, but basically some mental models and reinforcing mental biases add to miscommunication.
Yes.
And that's exactly what happened in this episode. Humans, and I'm speaking from a grounded reality standpoint, humans create cultures to make sense of reality. Everyone is a part of various cultures and subcultures, which all influence the way we look at things and the paradigms we live in. And that's why the Al Shanes flip their shit. Yes. That's why it worked. It's interesting and intriguing. It's an interesting and intriguing reminder of the vastly differing cultures that are part of the Federation. And honestly, it's a relevant message for today's culture.
It is. And it also harkens back to that vibe of like a TNG episode when we watch Picard having to be a diplomat.
Yeah.
To different races. And, especially in this one, I actually got the vibes of, I was being reminded of the times when, Picard had to wear these weird things and have to say certain things that didn't make sense to him, but it made sense to the alien race he was talking to. And here, it was cool seeing Burnham go through that because like Burnham has no learning curve with this. So
she's always
seeing
been
her-
good at everything.
yes.
That's been some of our complaints with the show, is that she's always number one.
Exactly.
She gets everything done the right way. And to see her struggle
Struggle
with
this.
this first contact, I thought was a strong way to start the season.
Yes.
Yeah. In the ways of execution as well, that opening 10 minutes, directing, camera blocking, there was this synergy between all of the different filmic conventions that are utilized to create an episode of TV or film. And it was beautifully put together to create this feeling of cohesive synergy. It conveys the idea that this ship and her crew have finally got their shit together. Having Burnham on the planet with Book, Rice as acting first officer and sitting in the captain's seat made me happy, because it reminded me of the days of the original series when the original series and TNG, when Scotty would take the seat when Spock and Kirk were off on the planet, Data would take the seat when Riker and Picard were off doing other things. We have not had moments. It's these little things that I know people may shrug and say that's so insignificant, and it is, but those are the little nuances that are so important to Star Trek, and it adds a synergy to the show that has been missing. And that's not a negative. I feel like the show, especially starting with the second season, has really worked hard to fix some of the issues from the first season in the way of character development, because honestly, the only characters that had any development for the first season was Burnham, Saru, and Georgiou. 3 characters amongst a sea of characters, which was unheard of when it comes to Star Trek shows, because Star Trek has always been an ensemble cast. And since season 2, with the introduction of Pike in the Enterprise and Spock in number 1, they found ways to flesh out these characters in ways that make sense, and also scenarios that make it relatively simple to do so, and they continue to do that. And I feel like this is the moment. This episode felt like the moment that we have been working towards, that we as fans have been wanting. And at least you and I, this is something we've been talking. We want to understand the hierarchy on board the fucking Discovery, because there is no hierarchy. They had no captain since season 1, technically. Pike was acting captain. Saru was acting captain. Tilly was acting captain, and fucked that thing up. So to have like an established hierarchy finally at the show feels right.
It feels right. And that's why, I'm glad you brought up the term simple. This episode seems simple, but there's some beauty about that that really connected the Star Trek vibes really nicely with it, because they didn't have to, just throw all of this stuff at us to get us engaged. They basically said, okay, we're just going to immediately reintroduce our main character, who is Burnham.
Yeah.
She's the captain.
Yep.
So we'll reintroduce her really fast, introduce the crew slowly as the first 10 minutes go on, because you get Book, you get Tilly, you get basically that interaction of basically, especially when I think it was Tilly that was like actually asking them, "Are you guys being chased?" And I kind of got a good vibe of that.
It felt very original series movie Trek,
but it felt like
it felt like something Kirk and Spock would find themselves in, that type of scenario. That's why it was so fun.
And it was so fun, but it also felt like, no, this is the Discovery crew.
Yeah.
I expect that from Tilly and her connection to Burnham.
Well, they had their own little, humorous quirks, their own way of how they interact with each other. Yeah, for sure. Well, they have their own rapport as a crew. That's very unique, and that's something Discovery has done very well, giving us a very distinct crew.
And they did that in the first 10 minutes really well, and kept it simple. And I think that's what I'm glad you brought up the term simple, because I don't want people thinking that simple's bad. No,
simple is good sometimes.
simple is good, and
a lot of times, actually.
especially since Discovery is in their season 4.
Yeah.
They don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Just basically stick to what you've established, and just we'll walk along with you now.
Yeah, and I will say that this episode does feel like that. I keep saying the word classic, but that's not the right word. Most Star Trek fans that have been around for a very long time, and we're excluding the original series because they're in their own category. But if you look at all the other Star Trek series, most of them struggle until the 4th season.
Yeah.
TNG found its feet after Picard's assimilation, which was season 4.
Season 4.
Deep Space Nine found its feet when the Dominion War started to take hold of the Federation. And that started, for the most part, in season 4 with the debut of Worf as a main character on Deep Space Nine.
That's right, yeah.
Voyager found its feet after season 4 with the premiere or debut of Jerry Ryan's 7 of 9. That's when the show really found itself. Now, I'm not saying these shows weren't good before that, but that's when the shows definitively found their feet.
Yes.
Let's look at Enterprise. Enterprise is a little too late. Enterprise did the exact same thing. The 4th season is probably the strongest season of the show, and it found itself, but it was too late.
Then it was too
the
late by that
network
point.
had canceled it prior. So hopefully we're going to see the exact same thing with Discovery. It's a show that finally finds its groove. And honestly, everything is set in place for the show to find its groove. We're in our final setting. There's going to be no more time travel. There's no alternate realities. We're dealing with the immediate. And now our characters can marinate in their setting, and we can learn about the politics of the region, or I should say of the Federation space as it is now.
As it is now.
Yeah. So there's a lot going for this show, and I feel like a lot of it was made clear with the premiere of this episode. Now, not all is well, and not all is well within Camp Discovery.
Yeah.
As the title of the episode should clue you in, which was titled The Kobayashi Maru.
I will say, I was really happy that basically that played into the episode.
Yeah, it should have made the theme of the episode quite evident. Thematically, it works in tandem with the narrative, throwing the crew into harm's way and facing a no-win scenario when it comes to Burnham as a captain. And using this theme as a springboard, the writers directly connect the initial parts of Burnham's arc from season 4. And I will say I'm thankful that the writers are not forgetting Burnham's flaws. This is something we have droned on and on about throughout the last 3 seasons. We have said numerous times, flawed characters are the best.
Exactly.
They are the most interesting. But with Burnham, they seem to not want to go the distance. They start things off by showing that Burnham has things to work on, that she makes terrible decisions. But by the end of the season, we're supposed to accept that she knows what's best, even when it's obvious she's making
wrong.
bad decisions or emotional decisions. So based on how the season started this year, it looks like her emotions will be put under the microscope. And the good thing is, it looks like they're using parts from her characterization to steer us into this territory. The new Federation president told Burnham...
Yeah, President Rylak.
Yeah, we'll talk about her in a second because she's great. Told Burnham she's got to accept that there are things beyond her control, and she has this savior complex, using the Kobayashi Maru as a point of reference. The president made her case. You have to accept that there are no-win situations, that she needs to quit commanding from a place of personal need.
Yes.
She has to maintain objectivity. And it looks like the writers are acknowledging something that we've been going on about since the start of Discovery. As the president of the Federation used those famous logical words, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, which is exactly what we've been saying every time Burnham or Stamets lets their emotions get the best of themselves. And Like, that's something that frustrated the fuck out of me last year.
Oh yeah,
Like,
last season.
shit is falling apart around them, and Stamets is obsessed with Adira
Adira.
and Colbert. Like, dude, you have a responsibility to hundreds of other people, let alone the entire galaxy. You're a Federation officer. Now, not to say officers in our TV shows, Starfleet officers, have not made emotional decisions. They have. But they've always been used as a way to reflect an issue within that character that needs to be resolved.
And that's why I liked that one line of Relics to Burnham in the end when she talks about Burnham's leadership type, and she basically says, "You're like a wrecking ball." And I'm like going, exactly. It's not the fact that basically Burnham doesn't understand about, she can't save everybody. But the problem with Burnham is like she's so impulsive that she'll just do anything that she thinks is logical and try to actually, excuse herself in the end, trying to make logic out of her own actions.
Well, they use the idea of her trauma as the root of
As the
this
root of
problem,
it,
that
yeah.
because she experienced trauma at such a young age, that she now has this mentality that she needs to fix everything, that
Yes.
she needs to be in control. This whole savior complex, which I love that. We have never had problems with Burnham. Burnham is actually a great character, but the writers sometimes are afraid. You know that term, you shouldn't be afraid to kill your darlings?
Yes.
Basically, I mean, it's a little different, but I feel like that definition can still work in this scenario. The idea of killing your darlings is something that people used to say when it comes to a writer writing characters that is now afraid to kill his characters.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I love this character so much. There's so much more I can do with them. So what happens is the story becomes stale and flat because the writer is unwilling to take risks with those characters. You have to be willing to kill your darlings. And it feels like at times the writers create this idea that Burnham is flawed and that she has issues.
But they don't want to follow through with it.
They don't want to follow through with it. And that's what happened with last season. They build up this amazing story that we loved for Burnham all season until the end, when all of her mistakes didn't matter and she became captain. We're like, wait a second, where's the lesson?
Also,
there was no lesson for her to learn.
Also, it was like, in contrast to Burnham in this episode and in the last episode, you got to remember, Burnham was willing to sacrifice Stamets and just toss him out into space. And yet she's not willing to let this one commander who she doesn't even know die. And then she thinks the world ends.
Yeah. Well,
but that's why I loved about the Rillick conversation she had, because Rillick just pointed out, no, your flaw isn't the fact that basically, no,
you're a good captain.
You're a good captain, but your problem is the fact that you are so impulsive that you don't think about your actions. You're a wrecking ball.
I want to see this continue, and I'm hoping it's not just more the same where, hey, let's make sure people understand her flaws, and then at the end it's not going to matter because Burnham's going to prove that she's right and you're wrong. And I don't like that because none of our characters, Captain Picard made horrible decisions at times.
All the time.
He made decisions that you would look at like, oh my God, I can't believe that was a bad decision. But at the end of the episode or movie, they would then point to the mistake he made, and there was a lesson to be learned for that character. They were willing to go the distance with Captain Kirk. Look at Captain Kirk. Prejudiced sentiments when he says, let them die.
Yeah.
How horrible when you think a hero of a franchise. The writers were willing to have Captain Kirk tell Spock, let an entire species die.
Because
that is a dark and xenophobic thought, and yet it worked because at the end there was a lesson for our character to learn.
Exactly.
And that's what they need to do with Burnham this season. They have to go the distance. They have to.
They have to. And there has to be a point when Burnham is in the Kobayashi Maru setting, and it can't be with some unnamed commander that we don't even know.
Yeah.
It has to be with someone that is close to her.
I think someone's going to die.
That's what I'm thinking. This season is like someone has to die.
She has to be in that no-win situation.
She has to be in that no-win
That's how this
situation.
season needs to be bookended. They started off with that idea, and if they really want to give us an amazing season full of introspection for Burnham, they need for her to make a decision that ends with a character that she cares about dying.
That's why I'm really thinking that
Hopefully it's Stamets.
could be Book. I think it's Book.
No, not Book.
Because
I fucking love that guy.
They've been pushing Burnham and Book as a team since season 3, and I'm like going, it's cool that Burnham actually found someone in the future, but what does this do for the character of Burnham?
Yeah.
Unless you're going to have something happen to Book.
Yeah.
Because the only other character that I could think of that is a no-win in a no-win situation that would affect Burnham in that way is Saru,
Tilly.
maybe Tilly.
Oh, for sure Tilly.
Maybe Tilly, but definitely Book.
Yeah.
And out of those 3, if I were to bet who's the most who's the one that basically the writers are willing to actually depart with, it's probably Book.
Yeah. Don't touch Book. Don't touch my doctor. I fucking love Hugh. He's what? Wait, not Hugh.
Not Hugh.
What's his name?
It's Colbert.
Is it Hugh Colbert?
Yeah, Hugh Colbert.
Or am I getting Hugh from the Borg? Hold on. I could have swore his name was Hugh. Yeah, don't mess with him, and don't mess with Book. Everyone else is
Everyone is fair game.
Fair game. Don't mess with those 2 guys though, please.
But apparently in your list, Stamets is on the priority.
Stamets is number uno.
The whole season you're gonna be like anticipating, is this the time that he dies?
Yeah, I listen. The only reason why I don't like the character is because he has always been written as a fucking diva.
Yes.
He has this permanent face that is just always filled with some type of animosity, or there's like a discontent about him. He just looks always unhappy, and maybe that's just the actor's face. I don't know. But he also is so emotional. So I'm hoping that the lessons that Burnham learns this season is dual serving. I hope they apply that same lesson to Stamets, because look at the first thing he said as he's running through engineering in this episode. He's already doing it.
Yeah.
People are dying. A spacecraft just crashed in the hangar bay. You're being attacked. Your shields are being depleted. And how's Adira?
How's Adira? I know.
I'm like, come on, man. Can you imagine Geordi ever doing that? Or Scotty? Scotty's first priority is the fucking vessel. I'm sure Scotty fucked the console. But he was in love with the Enterprise.
Oh, yeah. All those times that Scotty basically says, I know the ins and outs of this ship.
Oh, I bet you do, Scotty.
Oh, yes, you do.
And I don't blame you. So you get what I'm saying, though? Like, I'm hoping Stamets also has to learn that lesson.
He is the one. Remember, last season, I don't know if you remember, when we were doing our wrap-up, I said Stamets has to be turned into a villain.
Oh.
He has to be turned into a villain
I
at this
don't know.
point. Because
an obstacle, maybe, but...
He just got tossed.
Yes, we do have to deal with that, right? Like, I'm not...
Exactly.
I'm not for problems within our crew. I feel like we need to move past that, and we have. And I did cringe a little when that commander pulled a phaser on Tilly. I'm like, oh, are we really doing this again?
Exactly.
But I'm willing to shrug and look the other way when it comes to that, only because the Federation has been so broken at this point that maybe some of the ideals
have changed.
Have changed. It's not quite as... It's not at the forefront of everyone's mind, because these are completely different individuals that grew up at a different time when it was about survival.
Exactly.
So I'm okay with that, but I'm hoping to see some changes as well. So let's smooth out some of those things. But overall, I will say I'm very happy with what they did and the potential direction they are taking with Burnham, because they are not negating or ignoring her mistake. They are using them to create consistency across the last 4 seasons. Now, the president's vision was more than just a tick of a box, but to see Michael in action. This is another scenario that's interesting, and I have a very specific theory as to why this was even mentioned. So the president wanted to be on board Discovery, not to challenge Burnham's captaincy, but to see how she handles certain things. The no-win situation, if you will.
Yeah.
And at the end, she comes to the conclusion that Burnham is not ready. And ready for what? For one of the newer, fancier ships coming out of Archer Space Dock.
And it's a Voyager class.
And it's a Voyager class. Now, David, Saru is going to be the captain of that ship.
You think?
Why do you mention it? There's no reason to mention a ship specifically in an episode like this.
That is true.
Rice is second in command. Is that how you say his name, Rice?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rice.
Rice is in second command. Yeah, obviously they can bump him and put Saru in there. But honestly, if Saru's captain material, he shouldn't be a first officer.
Think about it.
I have a feeling we're going to get exactly what I said I was hoping we would get. Do you remember off season we were talking during our news discussions that I said, why can't Discovery turn into a multi-ship series?
Yes.
We have never had a series that had multiple ships involved except for Deep Space Nine during the war years. When we had Martok's ship and we had Romulan ships and we had Federation
Defiant.
ships and we had the Defiant. So if we were to start introducing new ongoing, let's just call them guest ships, just like guest spots, guest ships, I feel like it's something we've never done. They kind of did it in movies with Sulu becoming a captain and being in charge of the USS Excelsior.
Excelsior, yep.
So I feel like it would make a lot of sense on multiple levels if you just give Saru the captaincy. The captaincy, is that the word? Give him the captain responsibility of the new Voyager. And if we do see this new Voyager, there will be major hell to pay if the hologram doctor
I was waiting for that.
is not a part of the ship.
That's why I was like, can we go into the Voyager ship now, please? Because I want to see the inside of that ship and I want to see the med bay.
Dude, Robert Picardo better. If we see Voyager and there's no Robert Picardo as the doctor,
It's not the Voyager.
it's a missed opportunity because he's a character that transcends space and time.
Yeah.
He's a hologram.
He's a hologram. It doesn't even have to be the doctor. It could just be Robert Picardo.
It could be a variation. Maybe as a
variation.
way to memorialize the important part that this character, or I should say this officer, played on board the Voyager during the time that they were lost in space.
Yeah. And like it'd be hilarious if like maybe his bedside manner is better.
Listen, I think they should just go the distance and give us the doctor from
Give
Voyager.
it the doctor. Exactly. And it's true. He transcends space and time because
I'm
he's
a doctor, not a
hologram.
time traveler.
He's a
going to say
hologram.
it. Watch.
And like, I really, really would love to see that, especially when I don't know if it was meant to kind of like give this Star Trek synergy by giving number one, the Archer space dock. Okay, you tie it to the very first Enterprise. And then you have the Voyager class, which is technically the last starship we've ever saw in a Star Trek series. Because Voyager was the last one.
Yeah.
Unless they were just doing it like that to give it that weird Star Trek synergy. But I think it would be a missed opportunity, like you said, if we don't dive into the fact that we can have a brand new Voyager ship.
It needs to be done.
It does.
That's all I have to say. Give us dual ships. Please make it happen.
The only problem is like, I don't know if your idea of Saru is going to happen.
You shut up, David.
I don't know. Because, I'm sorry, Mike.
Don't.
Don't. I think he's going to stay on planet with Su'Kal.
No, he's not. Okay.
You know, his heart And I'm sorry that this part in the episode made me chuckle.
Yeah.
His heart may miss his friends, but Saru apparently has this responsibility to his people.
Yeah. Whatever. So Saru and Sakal, let's talk about them. So number one, the Kaminar production and art design is completely fantastic.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
Simply gorgeous design. And interestingly, now that we are roughly 1,000 years into the future, we see a united Kaminar where there are no prey species, but an interspecies council that almost resembles the Vulcan in tone. A few keywords were used in the episode when it pertained, or as it pertained to the Kaminar, and it was the word balance. That word was thrown out a couple times. I don't believe we've heard that terminology before in relation to the Kaminar people, but I do like the idea of balance being used to govern their society because it feels harmonious with the concept of an ecosystem that lives in peace and it adopts well with the former concept of prey and predator.
Yeah, there's
that
a synergy.
Dynamic.
There's a synergy to it because and I like the fact that it took them 1,000 years. It took them 1,000 years for the Baul.
God, the Baul is so fucking cool.
And the Kaminoans are is it?
No. That's their planet.
How do you say their species? The Kelpians.
There we go. Yeah.
But it took them 1,000 years to actually create this synergy so that they're not fighting anymore.
Yeah, I think it's amazing looking. I'm hoping I don't mind us. We need to take Saru back. That's something that needs to happen, and it's going to happen. I'm sure that's what they were alluding to with that discussion.
He needs to watch his friend.
Hey, he doesn't talk like that no more, Dave. He's grown up.
Did you notice that?
Apparently, you can get rid of speech problems in 3 months.
Exactly. I was cracking up at that. I'm going, oh.
They probably listen to our podcast, as we know some Star Trek producers and writers do, and they're probably like, you know what? That doesn't make sense. Why does he have a baby voice when he's been raised by adult holograms?
And it took just 3 months to fix him.
Dude, Sukhal lost his stupid baby voice, thankfully. And also Sukhal, the worst plot device in human history. I really do. I really think Sukhal, that reveal, is what killed season 3 for me.
But Mike, it's
such a great season, and it's so anticlimactic. A crying baby shattered the universe.
Yes.
I keep digging for the metaphor. I keep digging for the potential allegory. Like,
the scary thing is they actually made forward progression to actually fix Sukhal.
I don't want to live in the past, and you're right. They did. They absolutely did, and he didn't annoy me, and I was so thankful. He was normal. I still don't co-sign on the whole I'm gonna leave the Discovery to help this boy when Saru willingly left his sister not once but twice. But something about Sakul makes him suddenly realize he has a responsibility to his species. It was weak motivation, and they did it so they can make Burnham captain. That was one of our biggest problems. You literally made a decision that didn't make sense so that you can then move your lead character into the captain's seat. And I had no problem with her becoming the captain. It's just the way they did it felt very weak, and that had everything to do with that horrible reveal of Sukhal.
Now, as I was saying,
let's be positive.
I would love to see Saru take up the mantle of being the captain of the Voyager. I think it's Voyager J.
Yeah,
and that would be perfect. You would fix the whole problem that we had last season.
Yeah.
However, I want to throw a monkey wrench in your plan because I honestly think Burnham will take reins of the Voyager class. Because there's one thing that still is unexplained, and it's, we all know Calypso still happens. The ship disappears somehow.
That's true.
So the whole crew leaves Discovery somewhere.
Yeah, that is true. But also that can literally happen at any point.
At any point, it can happen at any point.
Because
but,
it was so far into the future, right?
yes, but like it for me, it just makes more sense if they were just to answer that finally and basically, Burnham gets a shiny new ship.
I'm okay with that too. Either way works for me. Didn't they show one of our characters? I always forget his name. Not Rice, but the other gentleman that's in the background. Didn't they have him mention that he's been working temporarily on another ship?
I think I know what you're talking about.
I'm pretty sure they said that in the episode. They showed him. He said something to a new officer that we've never seen before.
That's right. We get introduced to the new officer of the team.
Yeah. So we get the idea that he's been on another ship. So they are intermingling and moving people around, officers around. So who knows? We may get Burnham as the captain of the new Voyager, and that's fine too.
Yeah.
I feel like this show can be much bigger than simply one ship. Obviously, the Discovery needs to be at the center because the show is named after the vessel, but they can do different things.
But they can do different things, especially since, like, in this particular past season and with this, we've introduced the fact that Book has his own ship that he uses alongside everybody.
That's a gangster ship, too.
And
I want
it's
that.
a badass ship.
It's such a cool ship, the whole design. All right, so the progress of the Federation and Starfleet over the last several months was also a big part of the episode. Starfleet will be, drumroll please, will be reinstating their main purpose of space exploration, which is a necessity. Starfleet Academy has reopened. Archer Space Dock will be a thing. And how awesome was it that they gave us the Enterprise theme as they showed Archer Space Dock. And it was the real theme that they used at the end of the credit sequence.
No. They needed to play the actual theme.
What theme, David?
Because it's been a long time, Mike.
No.
and I'm sorry, everyone says that final Archer theme. Exactly.
They didn't use this one, David.
This is the true theme.
No, the true theme is the ending during the credits. That's the real. This is a bullshit 90s riff.
All you Star Trek fans are denying the fact that this is the true theme to Enterprise. It's not Archer's theme. This is Archer's theme.
Okay, ready? Here we go. Put your lighters up. Everybody now, ready? I'm going to make love to someone with this song.
Can you imagine? Someone actually did an edit because I saw it earlier.
Yeah.
And instead of Archer's, what's called Archer's theme in the scene, some fan actually put that instead.
Shut up.
Are you serious? I was like cracking up. I'm like going, yes, this makes the scene so much better for me now. Because it's one of those things that made me
here's the
chuckle.
real one. This is the real Enterprise theme.
No, it's not.
Because that other bullshit 90s, whatever the fuck that was simply a way to bring in new audiences because those were the types of songs that were being used at that time.
Yeah, during that time
for
in the
TV
90s.
shows. And the real Star Trek Enterprise theme is this one, and it was only played during the credits at the end of the episode.
Yes.
And this is what they used when they gave us the reveal of Archer Space Dock.
And in all seriousness, I thought that was a cool touch.
I loved it.
I loved it.
I got
because
super giddy.
It's one of those things that I feel that Enterprise does not get enough love in the Star Trek universe, and seeing them do that made me happy.
Yeah.
You know what would make me more happy? Than
What's that?
If they just played the real thing.
No. What's real one?
Because Mike, that theme just makes me so happy every time I hear it because
it makes you happy.
It makes me happy. You know,
I think you need more things in your life to make you.
Because Mike, this song is everything that the Federation wants to be.
Really? What Federation is this? See, this one was okay, but then they changed it in the second season to a more Western twang,
yeah.
and that one was even worse. Like, what are you
I
doing?
remember that. I was like going, when did this become like a Western?
They're going for a country music television award. All right. So, lastly, when it comes to the Federation and Starfleet, they also, as we had mentioned numerous times already, there's a new president for the Federation, Lara Relic. Is that how you say it?
Relic.
Now, interesting. I had to look this up because I wasn't sure. I knew she was Cardassian, but she didn't look full Cardassian.
Yeah.
She is half Bajoran. No, not half. She is Bajoran, Cardassian, human.
Human. Yeah.
And the reason why I like this is because I am so anxious to learn about this era's political landscape. What does it look like? What are the Cardassians doing? Did they finally shed their authoritarian, suspicious, militaristic ways and join the fold of society? Did they finally truly make peace with Bajor under the leadership of the new Cardassia? If you remember how Deep Space Nine ended, it gave you this idea that things were going to change with the way they viewed Bajor and the people of Bajor. So I want to learn. That's the things I want to learn in this show, this season. And I know that's a Star Trek baby want, but listen, we're allowed a couple of them. And the only Star Trek baby want that I need to have this year, I want to learn more about the social political landscape and just the cultures of the Federation now. Give us some stuff on Ferengi. Like, what happened? Did Ferenginar finally dismantle their capitalist ways, or are they even more money hungry?
More money hungry? Yeah,
I would like to touch on that a bit.
Yeah, especially with a lot of like I will say this: the last season, I was really excited that Discovery decided to actually start showing some of the more alien races that we're familiar with.
Yeah,
and seeing them how they quote unquote evolved within like 1,000 years, right?
Right.
And this season, I want them to fully dive in. That's why I was really excited.
I think we need to.
I was really excited with this new character because, like, President Rylak, being human, Bajor, and
Cardassian. Yeah,
that's a mix of like species that you're like going, you would never imagine that.
What makes you wonder what happened? Obviously, if this woman is Bajoran, Cardassian, human, and she's the president of the Federation, then you got to think that at some point these three cultures made true peace.
Exactly. And imagine, as a Deep Space Nine fan, coming to the realization that that happened. That's a lot.
And also, where's the wormhole? No, I do not want Discovery delving into anything Deep Space Nine related.
You don't want them to ruin.
I just leave that precious gem alone. They've already, Picard destroyed 7 of 9, turned her from this super intelligent, capable scientist who was inquisitive to Sarah Connor with a chip on her shoulder.
Yes. And I'm telling you, dude.
Don't just leave our classic characters alone. I'm one of those Star Trek fans that don't want that. Like, a lot of Star Trek fans, I want to see this character and this character.
Oh, no.
And listen, the Star Trek fan in me, sure, I do want those things at times, but the realist in me knows that they're probably not going to do it right.
Yeah.
They're not going to get it right. So just leave them alone and establish new characters that we can rally behind and love.
And I think I'm seeing more people.
Except for Dr. Picardo's hologram doctor.
Because you can't mess that up.
You got to have that in the Voyager. And yes,
but
please.
I've been noticing that just recently is like a lot of Star Trek fans are like saying, no, we don't want to see our legacy characters anymore.
Oh, okay.
Just leave them be.
Leave them alone, will ya?
And dude, the one person that is like on everyone's like top 10 favorite Star Trek character you do not want to see them come back to, number 1 is Sisko.
Yeah, leave Sisko alone. Don't.
And I'm like going,
that's way too.
But that's the biggest mystery in Star Trek, though.
No,
what happened to him?
We already know what happened. He became one with the prophets. Leave it alone.
No. He said he would come back.
Listen, unless Ronald D. Moore and Ira Stephen Burr come together and do it themselves, I don't want it touched. All right. So, for the most part, the episode functioned fairly similar to early Trek series, while still maintaining the serial vibe, but also giving us an away mission, a rescue op, and then the hook of the season, which, of course, is the beginning of the myth arc, which is the destruction of Book's homeworld by this gravitational distortion. It all works to get the season going.
Yes.
I have no complaints. Now, just a few tidbits here. The Al-Shane, the alien species from the beginning, which, again, gorgeous production design, that entire opening 10 minutes. We have never seen them before.
No, we haven't.
They're brand new, unless you're
thinking that it's an evolution of a prior species?
No. Okay, so they're considered non-canon until now. The Al-Shane, they were a species, David, but not on real Star Trek. They were a species that was created by Dark Ush. They are featured in the Dark Territory, Star Trek Gibraltar, Star Trek The Independence, and Star Trek Sutherland fan fiction series.
Are you serious?
So somebody got lucky. Some fan series writer out there, some fanfic writer, just got his rocks off, knowing that one of his characters he created is now a part of Star Trek canon. And I did verify this. I went to the Star Trek wikis. There was no mention of the Al-Shane on the canon side of things. They still haven't updated as of the time of recording, because now it will be listed on the canon side. However, it is within the expanded universe side, under non-canon.
Yep.
So interesting, right? To see that these characters were created by a fanfic writer. That's pretty awesome, though.
That is pretty awesome.
And believe it or not, this isn't the first time Star Trek has done this. They've done this before. In fact, this is a little different. Seasons 3 and season 4 of Star Trek Enterprise, the reason why they got better was because they got rid of the other writers and they brought on essentially fans of Star Trek to write. They were novelists that wrote strictly novels for Star Trek. They were brought on to executive produce and help with the writing, and obviously you can tell because the shift from season 2 to season 3 was like night and day.
Yes.
So, hey, listen, I'm not usually a fan of fanfic writers. I typically think they're not very great, but obviously this is a bit of validation.
Yeah, this can be used as an example why fanfic writers can actually write for their favorite franchises.
Well, David, if this is a thing now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get to work tonight on some fan fiction of my own. And I'm thinking of putting myself in my story. And I'm going to be Captain Michael. And I'm going to be the command of some vessel, whatever. And 7 and 9 finds her way on board.
7 and 9 finds her way on board just randomly.
And we, one thing leads to another. We make love.
Well, no, why don't you just take it further? Just go to Paul. To Paul, you could actually do anything.
So DePaul pops in and 7 and 9, and we all make love. And through this weird type of interspecies sex, Borg, Vulcan, human, we have a love child. And that child is some odd alien species that then is turned to canon in the next season of Discovery.
Then you can find out that this whole entire thing in the very end was just Guinan watching you from the Nexus.
Why do you always got to ruin this is my fan fiction right now? Do not insert your own bullshit into my fan fiction. So dumb. All right, so what else do we have here? We're pretty much done with our discussion. Interestingly, this was the first time 2 episodes of separate Star Trek series were released at the same time, because we did have the new episode of Prodigy released on the exact same day as Discovery. And the last time this happened, Dave, was May 26th, 1999, when Deep Space Nine was airing and Voyager.
Yes. And you know what was actually really cool? If you actually watched this episode and the Prodigy episode, I did pick out like a very similar theme between both episodes.
Really?
And I was really surprised that basically both episodes dealt with the Federation dealt with the Federation finding a different way of fuel for their starships.
Yeah.
Because if you go to the Prodigy now,
Yeah.
we'll talk about it in the Prodigy thing.
Spoilers, Dave.
Exactly.
What if people didn't watch yet?
The ship in the Protostar deals with a different type of fuel than dilithium.
Yeah.
So I thought that was actually, I don't know if that was by design
It's a coincidence.
or is it a coincidence?
Or was it? We shall see. All right, Dave. So this does bring us to the end of our discussion. I did have a list of fan theories that was put out by a few sites, and you know how those are. Those are usually hit or miss. Sometimes they're good, but more often than not, they're completely garbage theories that don't really make a lot of sense, and the theories equate less to speculation and
Yes.
more with what I was just spouting off, fan fiction with me to Paul at 7-9. It just feels like something you want to happen. Do we have time to go through this?
You
know what?
I think we do.
Let's go through it really quick with no discussion. We'll just go through the different aspects, okay?
Okay.
All right. So they have some theories as to what, let's see, Starter Discovery, 8 gravitational anomaly theories. Now, this was posted based on just the trailer before the actual episode was released. Star Trek fans out there were already getting the wheels turning. So, number 1 theory, the Nexus. I don't know if I could even entertain that idea.
It would be interesting, but I'm still trying to figure out. I don't think the Nexus wave would destroy
Hey,
planets.
you might get your Guinan.
Oh no, that's true.
Number 2, the super synths from Picard season 1. Can we pretend that doesn't exist? Oh my God, they're coming through. Oh, it's closed. Anticlimactic. Number 3, a graviton ellipse, which was from Voyager.
Yeah, that's actually a good one.
Number 4, the sphere builders from Enterprise. If you remember the Delphic Expanse.
Okay.
It had a lot to do with the temporal war and future time travel, which might fit with the show here.
It actually might. Yeah, that's a good one.
Number 5, Tychon's Rift from TNG.
Really?
Yeah, I don't see that one at all. Number 6, and this would be kind of cool, Species 8472 and fluidic space. Number 7, the Borg. I
don't know.
Part of me wants to learn about future Borg. Like, what have they been up to? Have they advanced? Have they died out? But the other part of me is like, we got to move on from the Borg.
Yeah, we got to move on
Yeah,
from
we
the
gotta.
Borg. And
There's so much worth 1,000 years in the future. We should be delving into completely new ideas. So
yeah, like the ability to, I believe, from what we saw in the end scene in Discovery was, Book's planet was physically moved, and I don't think that's the Borg
it was
would be
moved.
possible.
Then they found it and it was destroyed.
And it was
right?
destroyed.
Yeah. So number 8 is the Burn. They're saying the Burn did something.
Another
So.
child cried in the distance.
It's Sakul's child. Sakul is a child and he wasn't aware
And then he cried out for Sakul.
because Sakul left him. It's a vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle.
What an awful.
Oh my God, that would be awful.
Yeah,
I
don't-
hope. No, it can't be the Burn.
No, it's not. But I am intrigued. And I will say, Dave, I'm very happy with the season opener. I have been very cautious since Picard season 1, and also with the way Discovery ended. The last 2 episodes, because the first 10 episodes of season 3 were great. We loved it. It's just they need to land. They need to learn
They need
to
to
land.
land.
Yeah, let's make sure we let the landing gear out. We don't need to scrape the belly of the plane all over the rocks or the terrain. Let the landing gear out. Have a smooth landing. So I'm hoping we do that. So Dave, I'm going to give this episode an 88% for the season 4 premiere.
Okay, yeah, I'm around the same score as you. I gave this one a 87. Really good start to a season, but as I said, it just left me with a lot of questions now. Like
But that's good questions.
it's
though.
good questions, but it's also I'm approaching it very tepid right now because of just of how we got left off in the last season. Is like, okay, Burnham just got dumped into the captain's chair. You got to make something out of it. And it looks like they're heading in that direction. And I hope that basically every single idea and theory that me and you have stated in this episode comes to fruition, because they got to actually learn how to stick their landing.
They really do, because except for season 2, they have kind of screwed up their finale every season.
Well, if you think about it, the season 2 finale was basically just a to be continued.
Yeah, and maybe that's what they need to do.
Another to be continued.
Yeah. I will say, David, and tell me if you disagree, but is Burnham getting more and more attractive as the seasons go by? Because she I like her hairstyle. I don't know what it is. Maybe I just like long hair. I don't know. Maybe I'm a dude douche and I prefer long hair. I don't know. But I thought she was attractive, even with the masculine uniform that they're putting on these women.
You know what? There is some validity to it. However, you know,
can you imagine what happens when her and Book are having sex? The amount of effort it takes to dig through her clothes. Hold on, Burnham, I'm about to ravage you. Oh, hold on, I gotta
not to
let me
burst your
take off
bubble.
this belt. Let me unbutton these
Exactly.
20
Not to
buttons.
burst your belt, Mike.
Let me take that jacket off. That's the first layer.
Her
Okay, the
sexiness-
second layer,
her
the third
sexiness
layer,
to
and
me-
finally, when I get down to the 5th layer, I finally see her naked.
I'm just don't want to burst your bubble.
Yeah.
But the same sexiness feel that I get from Burnham, I get from Guinan.
It's not even the same, David.
It is.
That's
It's-
racist affiliation,
No,
because
no.
they're both black.
Because you want to
son
find
of a
out
bitch.
what's underneath that gown.
Oh, okay.
So
The
many
layers.
layers.
No, it's
so
not
many
the same.
layers,
It's
Mike.
not the same. Dave.
It's like it's a magic present.
No. One is like wanting to ravage the layers of the children of the corn,
And the other is
and
like
the
trying
other
to-
is like
to find the secret of the
going
Nexus.
through a hot Amish girl who is budding with sexuality, and she's just waiting for you to help unleash it. Like, that's Burnham.
I thought that was Guinan
No,
because
what-
you know
no,
it's
what-
like
what
finding the Nexus.
I'm gonna go over there and throw something at you. It's like finding the Nexus. What a sick bastard. I hate you. You're not my friend, and I'm kicking you off this show. All right. This does bring us to the end of our discussion. I want to thank everyone for listening, and please head over to our Patreon page. We have tons of things going on over there. Patreon.com/RainmanDigital. When you pledge $5 or more a month, you'll gain access to our behind-the-scenes tier, where you will be able to listen to all of our behind-the-scenes shows, which are our pre-shows. We do one before every single discussion. We get into different relevant Star Trek topics that we may not have time to get into during our regular discussion, or, you know, latest breaking Star Trek news. We get into it. We also have the podcast here. That's also a part of that $5 option, and you gain access to hundreds and hundreds of hours of additional full podcast episodes we've done on various Star Trek topics, and we are continuing to add more every single month. So please, patreon.com/RainmanDigital pledge. Help us stay on the air. It's really the only way we can make money, and we do need that assistance because, listen, we need to pay some bills. You see this equipment behind me? There's a lot of costs.
We need to upgrade the Starship.
Yes, we do. All right, let's bring us to yeah. I'm done. I'm losing my
voice.
my ability to speak. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Live long and prosper.